everybody. Beth here from Access Paranormal for this week's I Want to Know, which is all about a topic that gives me the heebie-jeebies. I mentioned before on Facebook that it's probably been one of my biggest fears recently. Before, it used to be demonic possession, believe it or not. To be demonically possessed was something I was quite frightful of up to almost 10 years ago. That has shifted quite a lot in recent years. And this is now the new fear. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. Less about me, more about the actual topic itself. Hi, Adam. How are you? Good to see you here. So this is a really intriguing one. So you're thinking, what's all the fuss? What is SHC? SHC stands for spontaneous human combustion. So what it is a fact that somebody is set alight, they burn from their insides without any external source. So obviously we'll talk a bit about the possibility of it ever happening to you, which I always find equally is interesting to learn and understand as well. Hi Shane, how are you? Hey buddy. So yeah, this is a really off-center topic. The question was literally, what is it? And, you know, am I at risks kind of thing? So equally as interested myself, I thought it would be great for an I Want to Know topic. Now, spontaneous human combustion, it sounds pretty frightful, doesn't it? So it's literally burning from the inside out. And what it is, it's being ignited from internally without an external source lighting the fire or burning. Again, with the fact that this topic is quite sensitive, there is information out there which is great. We'll talk a bit about that later. But sometimes when people have come across someone they may feel has died through SHC, they will detect the fact that their limbs are still there, that there is a sweet smell in the air, even like a bit of a smoky smell as well. Yep, we're getting into the gritty shit. Also, their hands and feet that also are left behind. So that's a big thing too. It's not just, you think if something was to burn, it would burn all the way through and the person wouldn't be there anymore. But it's actually the fact that their arms and their legs are still left behind. So again, if you can stomach it, after this video, there are quite a few photos out on the internet of people who they believe have passed through this particular phenomena as well. It is a bit intense, so you've got to stomach, and again, don't eat beforehand. I didn't, and so but it's fascinating. It's interesting because it's a type of phenomena that a lot of people have reported over a certain amount of time, which we of course will go into. So literally the key is to this is that there is no signs of fire. There's no actual signs of there ever having been a fire. So the person has literally burst into flames from the inside, and their limbs are fine. They are, the furniture that they may have been sitting on or wherever they were standing at the time is completely uncharred. So that's what makes this quite a mysterious phenomenon. That's why it kind of dovetails a little bit when it comes to the paranormal. So there have also been, as I said, there have also been cases where people have actually felt fire, burst into flames, or partially burst into flames, but actually haven't died. So that's not everybody who's experienced spontaneous combustions actually died from the phenomena as well. So there are people that have lived, they have burn marks on their body in ways that they can't explain it as well. Hey Foxy, how you going? Hey Glyn, good to see you, beautiful. Oh, I know, it is a fascinating subject, isn't it, Karen? So as I said, it's one of my biggest fears, but we'll talk about that later. So not all people who have burst into flames have actually died from the particular phenomena. They will have burn marks as well. Now, of course, it's an intriguing thing where you've got to think, okay, so how long has this stuff been going on for? How long has, how many people do it? Am I at risk? Are you at risk? Like, I could walk down the street and set myself on fire. Well, it's very difficult to get some decent numbers on this from a research perspective, but what I have found, there's been about 200 cases in total from what I know. Now, you can think of all the different people that have been around the world, lived around the world. If only 200 reported cases have been found and recorded, then I think you and I are pretty safe. That's what I like to hear. So with that being the case, we have to also keep in mind that the earliest cases that probably were recorded of something like this were actually the fact that, it was in medieval times where, the explanations for how people lived and the bad stuff that went on was very, very different to what it is now. So again, we need to keep that in mind. So there's probably a good chance it may even be less than that. That's even better news. So keep that in mind. Also, there is the earliest case that I could find. Again, it's been very sketchy. There's bits and pieces here and there, but the earliest case of this particular type of phenomena was in around the 1400s, and there was this pirate who really loved his food and loved his drink, and got on it one night, and apparently when he burped flames and set himself on fire. And of course, people thought, well, you know, that's actually carried on a little bit from the point of view of those who consume quite a lot of alcohol are actually more susceptible to spontaneous combustion. And that's the reason why my friends are worried. I'm joking. With that being the case, you know, people will set themselves on fire because obviously alcohol being quite flammable. So the more of it in your body, the more chance of that as well. So that's one thing. There's still a core belief in one of the reasons why this particular phenomena actually occurs. Another case that I found was of a woman in about 1663. She was lying in her straw bed, so she obviously wasn't well off, lying in her straw bed, and she actually obviously had caught a light within herself and burned, but her straw bed didn't burn, and that's what they found was really interesting. And I think after that, the term about spontaneous combustion, but obviously in Latin at the time, was coined back in those days. So I believe that could possibly be the case. Don't hold me against it. Research was, again, really patchy with this particular subject because it can be subjected to so many different other explanations for this particular type of frightening phenomena. So how rare is it, and can it happen to you? What are the theories about something like this? Because it sounds pretty intense. Again, if you've eaten before this particular part, I probably would bow out and watch later. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty. So mainly our bodies, right? Our bodies are made up 80% of water. Fantastic. That sounds like a great sign, doesn't it? Hold back. We're actually made up of a ton of different type of chemicals in there as well. So we are physically flammable. We can burn. We know that. We know that something sets us alight, we can actually burn. So that's one thing to keep in mind. We've got all sorts of chemicals going on, not just with water as well. There's, like I said, there's been roughly about 200 cases in total, keeping that in mind too. Also, one theory as to why we would literally set ourselves on fire from the inside has been the fact that we do have methane gas, don't we? But we have methane gas in our intestines, and what happens is the enzymes will shoot it off like a trigger. It's almost like an igniting, like a, you know, with a gas stove. So you turn the gas on, that's your methane, that's your enzymes, boom. There's an explosion and it will burn, but burning from all of you. So that's one thing, that's one idea of this, is with the fact that it burns all the way out, but it burns everything. And one of the theories, or obviously one of the thing that makes spontaneous combustion so unique is the fact that your limbs are left behind. So if it was to burn everything, it would burn everything because the rest of your body would be fuel. So that's an idea, but it doesn't really fit consistently with the possibility of spontaneous combustion. The most plausible explanation for something like this, and this is a really good term to go and look up, is called the wick effect. So think of a candle wick. And the reason being, oh, this gets gross, so bear with me. Our internal body, think of it as a wick. So think there's a wick goes through your body, and this here, our skin, our outer layer, is our wax. And what happens is it's like a candle burning from the outside in. And this is something that can happen to not just us, it happens all the way through different other objects in science and things like that. And actually what it is the outer is actually the fuel for the inner. So your inner is your heat source, but this fuels the burning. So that's why, that's why it's literally like burning from the inside out. So it's called the wick effect. Go and have a look after the video if you want really interesting phenomena, but that's probably the closest when it comes to explaining something. This because, like with most stuff that's quite strange, there's got to be an explanation. People are experiencing something like this. Clearly, you know, you can't come back from the dead and go, hey, I died from spontaneous combustion. If you get an EVP from that, that would be brilliant. But it's there's got to be something happening where people are dying and burning and ashing in certain places, but it's not consistent with a particular burn. So that's one of the closest ways in which that could help explain it. Now, of course, you think, well, if it's a burning from the inside out, wouldn't you just keep going? Wouldn't your arms and your legs just keep going? Well, there's a reason for that, or a possible reason for that, as we always love here at Access Paranormal, is the fact it's called temperature gradient. So what happens, so it's almost like if you had a match and you strike the match and the match burns all the way down. But when it gets closer to your fingers, it slows down and sometimes even stops. So you can actually hold a match and you may even be able to hold it for the whole time it burns. Reason being is the temperature is much cooler from where your fingers are to where it was actually burning. So it gradually just peters out. So that's a theory as well, is where the core of your temperature is from your inside here, which is where, I mean, 99.99% of all the burns are all coming from internal in the torso and also head area as well. But the reason why it doesn't go through to your arms and your legs is because your temperature grades out. It's cooler here than it is in here. So that may be the reason why arms and like limbs are literally still there after the person has passed away. So I know it sounds really grotty, doesn't it? But it's fascinating stuff. And again, it has intrigued me somewhat, to be brutally honest. The reason why it's intrigued me so much, to the point of fear, is the fact it's spontaneous. So it's not something I can control. And it's funny because Ben Fairburn had put a comment on Facebook when I actually did do this video or mentioned this particular topic, or it was going to be something like this. And it's the fact that something like this can happen and you don't have control over it. So that it scares the bejeebies out of me. I'm like, it goes down with demonic possession. So that's a couple of things to think about. Again, stomach yourself up before you go and have a read and research. It's a very fascinating phenomena. Again, like with stuff that would be slightly considered paranormal, there's a lot of people who say there are different ways for it to be explained. There are some ideas for that as well. The chances of it happening to you and I are extremely small, more than likely to be hit by a bus than to spontaneously combust. There have been a lot of cases where people have come alive, but they've been lying on an electric blanket, or they've been near a fire, or they've been near a particular heat source, but they're too far away for it to make a direct impact. So maybe embers from there, maybe there's a reaction from there from some way where that actually triggers internally, and then keeps and makes that has that actual chemical reaction of whatever it is that they actually burn or actually flame up or have burns as well, as we know, because not all people who have spontaneous combustion or attempts of will actually pass away. Now, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about this, a lovely lady, if you do live in Australia, more than likely you'll know this beautiful woman. Her name is Amanda Howard. She writes a lot of true crime stuff. She is Australia's true crime expert. She has a book that is called Life, Death and Other Funny Stories, and she does write about spontaneous combustion within this book as well, so go and check it out if you are interested. She also has a YouTube channel where she does some topics as well, and she's been featured on Studio 10 on this particular subject too. But there is so much information out there, a lot of contradictory in the sense of dates and facts, so do keep that in mind. How Science Works is a great website as well. I've found a lot of information for today's talk on that particular website, so go and check them out too. But yeah, so there you go. My biggest fear is spontaneously combusting, and I did make a bit of a joke that I've probably done that at work a few times in the last couple of weeks, so it does exist, but I still survived. But anyway, do take care, everybody. I'd love to know your comments. Originally, I do start with saying, let me know your experiences if you've had this. This is not something I want to know if you've actually experienced, or if you've dealt with a case, because that means you've seen a dead body. But I'd love to know your thoughts on this particular subject, and also what you think causes it and why. So I would love to know. Use the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching again, guys, and take care.